Right.
Dynasty
All right.
intervention.
It's already I already clicked it by the time you asked.
Oh, okay. I see,
it was loading.
Did you hit live with the snipping tool like Shane with his MFL trades?
I don't appreciate you making fun of my oldness. I don't make fun of you for any of your deficiencies, such as
You're admitting that being
lie.
Canadian isn't a deficiency then? Because you do make fun of me for that constantly.
Well, for the sake of this argument, I'm pretending that I don't do that. So in that thesis, no, being Canadian would not be a deficiency.
For the sake of the 2021 fantasy season, can I pretend Cam Akers didn't tear his Achilles?
You can pretend it. Unfortunately, when you put him in your starting lineup, it's going to read 0-0-0.
I identify with the healthy Cam Akers.
Dude, it hasn't hit me yet. I went through my sleeper mostly just to see the really ridiculous trades people were sending me for him, which, by the way, the people that are just sending these ridiculous lowball offers, you guys suck. You guys are literally the worst. It aggravates me so much. It's can I interest you in Kenyon Drake and Andy Dalton? It's
no. Both of them? Both?
This is what I said him in our league.
So look, Cam Akers, if you're going to make an offer, it's got to be at least a first-round rookie pick. Because, I personally believe Cam Akers is fried, right? But I'm willing to risk not taking Kenyon Drake and Andy Dalton because that's not going to help my team in any way whatsoever. I'll take the small outside chance that Akers is going to come back and be a top elite running back again over that all day.
This is the pre-show. We're not supposed to talk about actionable advice, Shane. We're going to get that take from you in 2 minutes, but if you read the show sheet.
Oh, wait, hold on. Let me read
He's
the
too
show
old.
sheet.
He's going to forget.
The entire show sheet is that a really important dude just tore his Achilles, and we're going to talk about it for an hour. That's pretty much the gist.
Well, if you could get my bifocals for me, maybe I could see them.
Sorry. Should I send you the show sheet as a snipping tool excerpt in the future?
Or do you know how to do Morse code?
No, I don't even know what Morse code is. They don't have it in Canada.
Oh.
I'm joking. I know what Morse code is. You goofball.
Sell high on Henderson. Yeah, dude, if someone's going to give you a first for Henderson, you've won the lottery.
Stop.
We will
get on the show sheet.
It was a comment, so it wasn't on the show sheet.
Girlfriend, we're going to get to
so let's talk about this. So we moved to 9:00 because I felt the 8:00 hour was really inhibiting my behaviors. I felt like there's a chance of too many children watching.
Oh God!
Now,
we're on cable now.
Now I know that there's literally no fucking kids watching, and if there are, they're probably bad children anyway.
I mean, school's out, so I mean,
if you let your kids watch this, then you hate your children, so it's fine.
Yeah, Taylor, I am wearing black because it's a sad freaking day. It's a sad day. I understand that you're over there with Kyle Yates, probably victory lapping your Henderson shares, but
he was more like the bad guy off the Mighty Ducks show on Disney. Even more
Taylor, actually, Kyle Yates is on vacation, so I think Taylor actually took over his account today.
So this isn't actionable intel, and this isn't just directed at Kyle Yates, because I'm sure more than him did it. But anyone out there that's telling you that this is why you draft handcuffs is a fucking idiot, and you should not be taking fantasy advice from them. I'm sorry, I don't judge. Most of the time, I'm just hey, everything's nice.
Only Canadians.
We're friends. Yeah, well, Canadians don't count as people. But real people on Twitter, usually I'm pretty level-headed. I'm just oh, that's a bad take, but I don't need to be mean about it. If someone is telling you this is why you draft handcuffs, don't listen to their fantasy advice.
It's the worst part is this is why you draft. Well, I've seen some terrible ones. The handcuffs is whatever. I don't even hate that much because it's whatever. People get injured, right? The theory is you just take guys that suck because then the people that don't suck get hurt. Right?
Well, then you need to follow that to its logical conclusion and draft all 32 handcuffs. So your team is going to consist of 64 running backs. I don't know.
Oh, you mean that's why you draft handcuffs of your own running back?
Yeah.
No, that's so aggravating. You know why you don't do that? Because it could be Cam Akers.
This is Fantasy Intervention. to intervene with your fantasy life, Shane Manila, Jacob Sanderson, and Chase Vernon.
Fucking Chase, Jacob's in the middle of making a cognizant argument, and no, that's not the right word. Cognate, yeah, whatever. And I'm listening to him for once.
Cognac,
and I'm excited because I'm like, oh, I'm letting Jacob speak. We're having like an adult conversation for once, and then you just cut his ass off.
What people miss is that every time I had somebody just text me, shout out to the law firm guy. He was like, every time they get you, and it's true. And what they miss is that every time I have the exact same reaction. I'm saying something, I think it was last time I was talking about how, I kill birds or whatever. And then Chase goes to show and I go like this every time. So it's just exasperated.
So you're basically Charlie Brown, whatever the Canadian version of that would be, which would be Caillou. So you're Charlie
Brown, but with a U.
My favorite thing is what happens every single time that I can see in the studio, because I can still see everybody and what they're doing back here in the studio. But Jacob's face when he gets pissed off that I cut him off like the worst time is my favorite reaction of anything on any show ever. It's hilarious. That one really pissed him off though, because normally I get him to where like it's like something awkward that he finishes with, and he's like, "God damn it!" Like like he's frustrated, but it's still funny. That one he was legitimately pissed. I didn't know if he was
usually
still stay on the show.
Usually it's funny. Usually it's like, oh, you clip like something funny that I say that's inappropriate. This time it's like I'll just stop you in the middle of a sentence like about football.
Usually Jacob's just blabbering some whatever indecipherable
you
gibberish.
why draft handcuffs? You draft handcuffs because bang.
Do.
No, you should definitely. So what I was saying before that is definitely when you're drafting, draft handcuffs to every running back you've drafted, so you can take up as many. So if you have 4 running backs that you've drafted for starters, you should have 8 on your roster, because you definitely need their handcuffs too. Oh, and also, guys, everyone with low ADP, their value, all of them.
I want to shout out to Michael Liu, who said that the best strategy this year is once again 0 player.
That's the only strategy.
Yeah, I found that particularly entertaining, where it's like, every year people are always like, I'm worried about this guy, and then it's like, oh well, you just don't have any players, they can all get injured, just only have picks. But let's get into the show here. Look, tonight we were going to come in, we were going to talk about the AFC East. However, it is not just any day when a round 1 single quarterback dynasty running back, 22-year-old, ruptures an Achilles, not even in training camp. So really, really crazy stuff. I mean, before we get into anything, I just want to say that, our thoughts are entirely at the front of it with Cam Akers, with his family. These people are professional athletes. Their body is their livelihood. Their body is their family's livelihood in a lot of ways. And these people are warriors. They put their bodies on the line for our entertainment. They put their bodies on the line for our enjoyment. And ultimately, they do it to give their families and themselves a better life. And especially with someone on a rookie contract, that has huge ramifications that extend far beyond our fantasy football rosters and far beyond the Rams football roster. So that is certainly where our head is at the beginning. I think I speak for all of us when I say that. But of course, we are a fantasy football show, and we will have a fantasy football discussion with that aside. So today we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about the Akers injury, the fallout, how they're dealing with him. We're going to talk about how we're dealing with Henderson. We're going to talk about the rest of the Rams. And we're going to talk a little bit about how you trade in such an uncertain environment, because, when these things happen, you can potentially make some really, really league-altering trades that are way off what the market ends up settling on. And we'll talk about how to take advantage of that. So let's just get into it right off the start here. Cam Akers, of course, ruptures the Achilles. Shane, what is your first reaction?
That unfortunately his time as a productive fantasy player is probably past. Of the injuries that you could sustain, I say Achilles is probably as bad as it can get for for a running back. it's your burst. I mean, if you have no burst as a running back, it's really hard to be successful, really hard. And then, it sucks he was on his rookie deal. Like, if this is going to happen, though, a guy you'd hope, not that you hope anyone gets injured, but at least let them get at least one big signing bonus in, after you sign that 3-year, $60 million and you get $25 million guaranteed or whatever, that life-altering money. Second thing is, I checked all my shares. I don't own any Akers in any leagues. I don't roster him, I should say. And that's not because I ever thought he was a bad player. His price was too much for me. That's all. But if he was, the RB10 instead of the RB6, yeah.
There you go, Lindsay.
All right, Lindsay, I'm a single man living by myself at 42. All right. Just be happy that I'm like, actually, I have
clothes.
That I have a shirt on and it's clean. Anywho, I don't remember what I was talking about, but no, it's sad that he got injured. It's like I said, what I was saying is if he was the RB10 instead of the RB6 most of this offseason, I probably would have had a lot more of them on my team. That's just luck of the draw. There's literally nothing you can do about injury. So,
Tom, let's go to you. And first off, I haven't given you a proper welcome yet. So, Tom, I spend a lot of time podcasting with you, but I usually do it on Fridays, and I usually do it when you're in the host chair. So, Thomas Tipple, FF, of course, my co-host every Friday on the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast, the co-host of the Fantasy Walkabout on the Full Tilt Dynasty Network that'll be coming at you in a little under 90 minutes from now. Tom, how are you doing today on a bit of a black day in the Dynasty community?
Yo, man, I'm good. I'm happy to be taking my first dive here with the brick wall that is Shane out here with Chase and yourself. I
think he's doing that as a metaphor to show the difficulty of an Achilles recovery.
Oh, my Lord. No, man, I'm good over here prepping for immediately after this with the fantasy walkabout. Got that prep in done and just here to hang out with you, gents. Nice to get in here with y'all on a Tuesday.
Well, let's get your take here. So what was your just first gut reaction in terms of how you're looking at Akers, in dynasty value going forward? Was your first reaction? I feel like there's 4 reactions. Number 1, you could be a total dunce and make an idiotic tweet. Number 2, you could go and send out a bunch of offers for Akers to panicking owners. Number 3, you could send out a bunch of offers for Henderson and hope they don't have notifications on. And number 4, you could just, sit around and cry. Where were you at?
My first reaction was to text you and make sure you were okay. As a good
can I just interrupt you quickly? I love you guys. Like, first of all, I love how synonymous my brand is with Cam Akers at this point, that I had over 30 people within 10 minutes of the news breaking either tag me on Twitter or DM me or call me, literally call me and just be like, are you okay? Sadly, the first one was from Lindsay, and he said Cam torn Achilles. And I've never heard Cam Akers referred to as Cam. It's usually Akers. So I assumed it was Cam Newton. And I was like, oh, that's too bad. And then I checked Twitter and I was like, oh, I hate life. So
our group chat was amazing. Wait, what happened to Cam? He's blowing up right now. Torn Achilles.
Cam Achilles.
But yeah, sorry, I cut you off.
It's all G. Look, my first reaction to this is it's not great, and I just need to take some info from Chris Paul Towers over there at CBS, who released a tweet today that really shows the uphill battle that Akers is facing on players that have torn their Achilles at the running back position. Guys like Lindo White, Andre Brown, Mikael LaShore, Ernest Graham, Kendall Hunter, Beanie Wells, Vic Ballard, Joe McKnight, Arian Foster, Brandon Oliver, Donta Foreman, Isaiah Crowell, and Marlon Mack. It is an uphill battle, considering, as he said, Donta Foreman is the success story. That is an uphill battle. I immediately felt gut-wrenched knowing that we're probably never going to get Akers RB1 in our lives. I'm not gonna go as hard as Shane as it says his chances of being a productive player are out the window. I think happened at an early enough age that maybe we can see some sort of recovery. Medicine's getting better. ACLs used to be like an immediate, career killer. They're not as much anymore. Jacob, you and I talked about that earlier. I think maybe there's a chance, 2 years from now, you might get something out of him, but we're never gonna get the chance to see that playoff Akers throughout the course of a season, and I think that's a real bummer.
That is a big bummer. I'll touch on my thoughts on this on a second, but Chase, let's get you into the mix here. What you were talking in the group chat about a whole lot of advances in modern medicine. You were on WebMD. WebMD, I assume mostly just told you that you have 7 different types of cancer, but maybe they also told you something about Achilles treatments. I don't know.
I bit my lip one time, and it definitely told me that I needed to decapitate my penis. At that point, I decided to never read WebMD again.
Shane, you should never do that, or how else could you accept James Robinson trades?
I did not. That was not me that accepted that offer. I would not do such a thing.
I was referencing something that you might have said in the group chat earlier.
Okay, nobody knows what we're talking about. So let's go ahead.
It's a 9 p.m. show.
I said
Shane might have said that if someone offered him Cam Akers for James Robinson, he would smash accept by slapping his dick on the phone.
Yes, I would. And I'm not even that big of a Cam Akers guy, but that would make me a big Cam Akers guy.
So here's the deal.
My Lord.
When it comes to ACLs, right? We went through a period where somebody tore their ACL, they were done. After Adrian Peterson, they started figuring out ways to do it. They started doing pre-rehab prior to just throwing people into surgery, right? They started figuring out ways to make it more advantageous and to strengthen up the muscles surrounding it and making it easier. So I ended up doing a little, deep dive into COVID, the 2011 lockout, how that affected, the injury history, and should we expect the same thing from not having an off season? Turns out the injury rate was 3%, blah, 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 blah. But one part dove into Achilles injuries, and they talked about how both were progressing to an extent. Now, Thomas, you've named a lot of people that were like pre-2017, right? And up late, that situations were. However, we said when we look at ACL injury, get Sanders, right? Emmanuel Sanders is gone. He has no chance to come back. He's 29, 30, 31 years old at the time that he had his ACL. Nobody thought he was coming back. His Achilles. Nobody thought he was coming back. He ended up coming back. He's not the same player he was.
He's not even remotely the same player.
But he probably would have been declining anyway.
He would have.
I think he would have been actually ascending, and probably could have played at Jerry Rice levels until he was 40, except for the blown Achilles.
Okay,
that's actually only Colin Johnson.
That's only Colin Johnson. Do we want to talk about John Peoples-Jones? Because that's what
no,
next. No. Sitting there and looking at it. I think that we could see an advance in medicine, and Cam Akers being the level athlete that he is, I still think that he has a chance to play again. And sitting there and also viewing it, 4.2% of skill position athletes who had a Achilles rupture ended up playing again for at least 2 more seasons. Those players that normally have these Achilles ruptures just aren't that good. They're either declining players or they're very subpar. I don't know why that is. But, I can't think of the last top skill position athlete who had an Achilles.
Well, Kevin Durant would be the one, right? Kevin Durant, to me,
he was the one.
Kevin Durant, I guess here's the issue to me with this.
Kevin Durant's
I want to be clear. Something like that.
How was Kevin Durant? Like 32,
33?
30? Okay, 33. So, we're talking about, a player that's in his 30s versus a player who's
he's not playing running back, though. Sanders didn't play running back. That's everything.
You need burst, man. You need burst. He's not going to have it. Look, yes, they've made great advancements in modern medicine, but we're not at the point where we're just flat out wholesale and replacing ligaments and hey, this Achilles is bad. Let's put a new one in there. We're not there yet. And that's what he would need.
Well, I hate to break it to you guys, but Cam Akers really didn't have that much burst before he got hurt. So
he had a decent. He was above average.
It was okay. Yeah,
it was above average.
Yeah, for a running back who went to the combine, that's not a starting running back. That's a running back that tested at the combine. He was above average for those players.
So it was above average of players that went to the combine. Let's just think about that sentence for a while. It's above average for the humans that were able to go to the NFL combine.
Yeah.
So the most elite humans that have ever existed. He was above average for the most elite human beings that have ever existed.
Yeah.
So he's basically a god that got his god wings ripped off. And you're telling me now it's not a big deal because, his god wings weren't that big. So
not compared to the other running backs of the position. And
here's my take with it. It's just like I'm not in medicine, all right, and I never played running back. So I mean, Tom, I really want to hear you talk more about it because you actually did play running back. So that's that's something that I certainly can't speak to. But like just from like a statistics point of view, I'm inclined to at least be open to what Chase is saying. And I don't know if I agree with it yet because we really don't know. But like I'm looking at this list, right? And this is you can read this, by the way, on fulltiltdynasty.com, which Tom did such a great job of setting up, and I'm writing a weekly blog there. And yeah, you go through the rest, right? It's like Marlon Mack, we don't know. We haven't seen him play on the tournament.
He's the great hope.
We're about to see. Although probably not because he's going to get like 5 carries a game.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I said that. I was like, if we truly see Marlon Mack have to be a workhorse on a torn Achilles this year, then that's just more pain in my life than I can prepare for.
Double pain.
Dante Foreman, I mean, I don't know. Like some people think that he was going to be good, but we certainly don't have any evidence of it. Isaiah Crowell was a guy. Brandon Oliver was barely a guy. Arian Foster was elite, but he was 30.
Very old, right?
Beanie Wells was, I think, a little bit more than a guy, but like not that much more.
He's like a gentleman.
Andre Brown, I actually don't know who that is. Kendall Hunter, I barely know who that is. Vic Ballard was like,
hey,
he was actually good. I like Vic Ballard for the 1 year with the Colts, but he was basically James Robinson if he tore an Achilles. Like he came out of nowhere. And then Ryan Williams was a 2nd-round pick, but he was like absolutely horrendous for 5 games, and then he tore his Achilles, and I didn't really like his profile in college. So I don't know. To me, like the one guy who I can definitively say should have been really good and had a lot of bursts, and then torn Achilles and then failed was Mikel LaShore. Like that's the only one to me that really jumps off the page. But that was like 10 years ago.
And LaShore had
so I don't know.
LaShore had a ton of other injuries and stuff.
So
yeah, he did shoulders and everything.
When you're relying on more like, so Cam Akers didn't have, like Chase was saying, when it comes to like combine running backs and all that other fun underwear Olympic stuff, he didn't have that natural big time burst. So he needed every bit of that Achilles tendon. So for a guy who was a 4.47 guy, like above average 40 time,
really great size adjusted speed,
right? And his burst was okay. He was very powerful. Remember, when you have that Achilles, you're losing some power too. Like you're losing that pop on that leg. That's why I said when you first asked me 2 years from now, expect nothing next year. It is so hard to push off at all. That's weight training. And just like the DJ down here, he's not going to have that same level of athleticism unless he's an Adrian Peterson freak of nature, which I don't think Cam is. Part of his allure this year was the workload we were projecting in LA, right? He's not that natural freak of nature. I think you're waiting 2 years to see anything from him. Without your Achilles, you have just no ability to do anything. It's brutal.
So
especially if I'm not mistaken, it was his right foot too, correct? It's his plant leg, if I'm not mistaken.
If that's his plant leg, I mean, not that it would have been good on the other leg, but yeah, no, that's not great.
Especially to his power side, which was left side of the line to cut back to the right hand side. That first step is gone. Like
here's the thing: if you can, so it's all about cost and risk, right? That's what fantasy football is about. If you can get him for a random first, in with hopefully a back end first, if you can project it to be a back end first, go for it. If someone wants 2 firsts, we'll tell them thank you and have a wonderful day. If someone offers you, James Robinson and a 3rd-round pick for Cam Akers, you send them on their way. So, it's all about risk reward. If I have him on my roster, I will hold on to him unless I can get at least a 1st-round pick. If I can get more, great.
I'm going to just cut this one off real quick because we're going to get all into the trading questions. We're going to get into Darrell Henderson. But if you are trying to get Cam Akers, you are probably doing so on a budget. And if you are on a budget, one great place to look is budgetgolf.com. We have a new sponsor. We are super excited to bring on budgetgolf.com to the show. If you want to check out everything that they have to offer, from great deals right now on Puma shoes, on Skechers, on FootJoys. They've got deals on Titleist irons, on Callaway drivers, on bags, on everything that you need to take advantage of the golf season this summer. Head to budgetgolf.com. Use the link that is in the show description. We are excited to continue to work with Budget Golf over the next while. That is, once again, budgetgolf.com. The link is in the show description on YouTube. Thank you. And now we will get back to discussing trying to buy Cam Akers on a little bit of a budget. How was that for the first ad read of my life, Chase?
Yeah, that was a killer segue. I loved it. Shane actually mentioned that in our private chat. It was phenomenal. And actually, I was sitting there looking at it, and I am new to golf, right? And I want to get into it. I haven't really had the guidance necessary, but I actually met up with a few friends recently that want to get into it just like I do. And so the whole reason why we looked up Budget Golf and why we linked up with them was because I wanted to get into it. So I figured I could actually go in there, and you gave me a couple different golf sets that I was looking into that I'm probably going to end up picking up later this week. So I'm very, very excited to have them as a sponsor and as an affiliate over there. So thank you, Jacob, for giving me the advice, and I can't wait to actually hop in there. Make sure you guys go check it out as well.
Absolutely. Now let's talk quickly about the buying price, because I talked about that a lot in my article, once again on fulltiltdynasty.com. And I disagree with Shane. This hurts me. Cam Akers was my RB4 overall in Dynasty prior to this. I know I have meme guys that I have higher shares of that don't really matter if they pulled a Tamari and Terry and murdered someone. I literally wouldn't care. It wouldn't affect my life. But in terms of premium assets that I'm actually invested in, pretty much the only guy I'm invested in more than Akers is DeAndre Swift. So, and ETN now, actually. So Akers, this hurts for sure. But I'm even a little less bullish than Shane. I would trade Akers for a first in pretty much any year. And my reasoning is just, I don't know. I think that I wrote in my piece, and I still half believe this, but I maybe even believe this a little bit less after hearing from Tom, who has that firsthand running back experience. I think there still is a ceiling there in the future. I think that, well, it's obviously not this year. Next year, I expect that even in the best case scenario where he returns and he's quote unquote full health, as in he's able to play every week, that he's going to be somewhat limited, especially if Henderson really performs well, or especially if they feel the need to bring someone else in. But I definitely think there's still a world where he works himself back in. He's still so young. And by 2023, Henderson's not there anymore, probably. His contract will be over. The Rams don't have any picks for the rest of ever. They're the guy in your dynasty league that's selling his 2024 first. The second that you post that if you've paid for 2024, you can sell your 2024 first. That's Les Snead. They don't have any cap space either. So I think that there's a world in which if Cam Akers is even 80% of what we thought Cam Akers could be, that's still the lead back for the Rams in 2024, which could be a good spot. However, the floor is nothing, right? The floor is he literally never plays another down. That's not I don't think that that's a 0% chance. I don't think that's likely either, but I think that that's not a 0% chance. And to me, I think that, would I rather have Akers than a late first? Sure. But I think people are overconfident that their firsts are going to be late. You know why? Yeah. Because random freaking athletes tear their Achilles tendon when they weren't even in training camp. People say this is this is why you don't roster running backs. They always get hurt. Dude, if Chase went to CrossFit this morning, this could have happened. He wasn't getting tackled. He wasn't running halfback dive. It was just, this is just the randomness of the NFL. So I've had teams right now that I thought were contending teams. Well, they just lost their RB1. So now they're probably not a contending team. I would take a 22 or 23 first for Cam right now, because who knows, that could be a middle of the road. And now I get a pick that probably has the same ceiling. But I don't have to worry about a torn Achilles tendon or they'll never play again. So Brad is saying, student Hendo, saying, as someone who doesn't have Akers, Is it really worth trading a future first to get him? Shane said yes. I'm saying no.
I'd say hard no.
So let me couch this though. So if you have multiple firsts, is what I'm thinking. Like you have multiple firsts in your. Why are you making that face, Tom?
Because if you have multiple firsts, chances are your team is not great as it is.
Some of us are good at trading. Some of us are just good at trading. So if you have some first
trading and you have multiple firsts, why would you waste that on a player who likely is going to do nothing for you? Again, I'd rather spend that first round pick.
I'll tell you why.
Wait. Okay, so what running back do you think you're getting for a first?
I'm not trading my first for one.
Ever for a running back?
Not right now. This is the worst time of the year to buy a running back.
Okay, pretend it's 2 months from now. Because will that be football season? 9/20. Let's pretend it's 3 days before the season. You got to start. Okay. You know, would you trade a first for a running back then?
Maybe. Again, it's all depending on, it's obviously team dependent, but chances are probably not. If in this offseason I haven't acquired another running back somewhere, I'm probably not paying the getting gouged price because I know that pick will double in value once those bad teams want to sell off running backs. If you have multiple firsts because you're just good at trading and your team is still awesome, why would you just wait, hold on to that first and trade it when that pick's value goes double to 3 times at the deadline?
Well, but theoretically, Akers is your first, right? Like you just treat Cam Akers as your first. He's gonna give you the same amount of points that first is for your roster in 2021.
Yeah,
and then you park it, and you know what else could double in value in 8 months? Cam Akers, because what happens if in May they say Cam Akers progressing way ahead of schedule, and that's on the Roto World blurb, and then you go, yeah, okay, I'd like my first plus something back.
You already know what's going to happen because Twitter's an echo chamber. So it'll start off as a little spark, and then the next thing you know is Cam Akers. I heard his Achilles is twice as strong as it ever was. Yeah, he's got a bionic fucking Achilles now. Like you already know that. Like there's going to be the bounce. No matter how his surgery goes, unless he dies on the table, knock on wood, it's going to come out that it was a positive result. And in 6 months, we're going to hear no matter what, he's ahead of schedule, and no one has ever healed from an Achilles injury like this in their life. And by next offseason, we're going to hear from him.
You think he'll be in the best shape of his life?
He'll be in the best shape of his life. This was a blessing. It's taught him how to
do workouts,
see the field better.
And it saves him touches. Yes, less touches.
Yeah. So, his value is going to bounce back no matter what, because it is. That's the cycle. Yeah. That's the cycle. Unless his doctors are honest and they're like, yeah, Todd Gurley's his upside. Then.
Yeah. Chase, let's hand it over to you because we haven't gotten there yet. This one quick, because I was in a chat with this guy and I said that he should do this trade, which was he gives up Terrace Marshall, Mike Davis at a 22 third. I'm pro the Akers side of this because I think Mike Davis doesn't matter. I'm really sure a 22 third doesn't matter. And as much as I love Terrace Marshall, he probably won't matter. Chase, what's your take on this trade, and what's your take on the Akers trade market in general? What would you give it, as you are a modern medicine expert?
I'm a modern medicine expert. I don't know if you guys saw my hand right there, but no, for real though, like we sit there and we look at this upcoming running back market for the rookie class. It's not good. You got like Breece Hall and maybe a handful of other secondary pieces, but this running back class could be worse. Maybe not. It might be more deep, but it could be worse overall than what we saw this past year, which was kind of brutal to an extent. Like, Najee Harris to Pittsburgh, you can rationalize it. You can rationalize ETN to Jaguars. You can rationalize Javonte Williams to Denver, but like none of those like landing spots were like, oh, dude, I need to hammer that spot home. So when we sit there and we look at it, Breece Hall
I'd have to check with the landing spot correspondent, Shane Manila.
Real quick, landing spot.
Okay, cool. So anyways, when we look at it, it's like this running back class in 2022 could be significantly worse. So I actually would, if you need a running back, move it for Cam Akers. Because I
think the 2023 class, Bijan Robinson, and a bunch of other guys I can't think their names of.
Hank Bigsby, Jahmyr Gibbs.
Well, it's going to be the greatest running back class of all time. Unless, of course, like 3 of them decide to wait another year and go to 2024.
This one is absolutely killing me from Dustin. www.chasemd.com.
You guys know it. I should come up with surgical gloves.
Justin's in a great mood because he's in 2 leagues with me, and I have Cam Akers in both of them. Although one of them he should check himself because my roster's so good that when I took Cam Akers and put him on IR, I just had to take Jamar Chase off my bench, move him into the starting lineup. Deontay Johnson remains on my bench, and then I can look at my 3 2022 firsts. So that's where we're at. That league there.
Well, the 3 2022 firsts aren't going to do you any good unless you need a quarterback. So let's go ahead and go to the
traded for Cam Akers.
Those are trade capital. Those are trade capital, my friend. I trade them. Yeah. I trade one of those and Akers and get a running back like Miles Sanders. No, I won't. I probably would not do that.
Actually, it made me so happy. I said you should trade Akers and a veteran, like a dusty veteran, for Sanders. That would be the move I would do because I think if you can get like Sanders or CEH or Etienne or Javonte, like one of those like young running backs that we haven't put in the we have zero concerns category yet. Like they haven't gotten into like the Taylor Swift Gibson tier. Harris, even I don't know, people really like him, and like I would do that because they have the same ceiling, but they also have 2 Achilles.
That is a slam dunk. Except, I mean, that's not even close. I would take any of those guys right now over Akers.
All right, so let me discuss this real quick.
Can we look at Ryan Pro's 26 trade?
That's what I'm trying to talk about. For like
3 hours. So he just did a trade. He acquired Akers for Terrace Marshall, Michael Davis, and a 22 third. I love that trade. That is a great trade, Ryan. The hardest piece that you're giving up is Terrace Marshall, right? And he's going to be a wide receiver 3, in case no one's told you guys, or even a wide receiver 2. Wide receivers don't matter. So I'm good with that trade.
I recommended it. Anyone object to this trade? Tom, you're the lowest on Akers. Would you have done this trade?
Well, yeah, I mean, you got Terrace Marshall at what spot in the rookie draft this year, right? I mean, assuming that we're going by rookie draft value, he was like, 2-4 before Sermon and Carter started to bump up. So if you're getting a 204, 208, a Mike Davis, and a 3rd and 22 for a guy that, most people would spend a first-round pick on, that's kind of an easy. Like, would I trade Marshall, Davis, and a 22 third for a first-round pick in a second? There'd be no thought there. So yeah, it's good. It's fine. Fits what you need.
Chase MD.
Here's my issue with it, right? Is if you end up drafting well and you end up having guys like Colin Johnson, Don Peoples-Jones in your roster, right? And then you would end up having to cut, some of the best players in the NFL. Then I have a significant issue with that. Plus, you're going to end up adding in a 2022 third, which you probably won't use. Thank you.
You're getting the trade wrong. He got Akers.
Oh shit! It said yes. I would do it in a heartbeat. Fuck yeah.
All right. Okay, let's move to the other side of this here.
You open up your roster. You can pick up Donovan Peoples-Jones and Colin Johnson now. This is awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe some room for Justice Hill and Isaiah Coulter if he's really lucky.
I dropped Justice Hill today in one of my leagues.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
You're no longer dying on Justice Hill.
I said in like 5 leagues. I just dropped him.
Look, let's move quickly to the other end of the spectrum because when something goes down, something else goes up, and that thing is Darrell Henderson. Look, Twitter has tried to make Darrell Henderson a thing for a lot of months because we've been bored, and now he is. I don't think that he's a thing the way that people wanted him to be or the way that people thought he would be, but he is certainly a thing. How about this, real quick, and then we'll get into a more nuanced Darrell Henderson question. In Dynasty, would you rather have Darrell Henderson or Cam Akers?
That's a good question.
Oh man, that's such a question for like in the moment.
I'll take
in the
Henderson.
moment you want Henderson, but overall, like maybe like I don't know, man. I don't want any of them right now, honestly.
Wait.
Let me ask you this: so do I have both of these guys on my roster, and have I sent out offers to everyone in the league? I would send them. Yeah, I don't know. I won't because Henderson, the best he's going to do, right?
You're making dynasty rankings right now. You have to dynasty rank for your life. You're in a startup. You're in a startup. You're on the clock. Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson are there. You're not allowed to take a wide receiver. You can't trade back. The only other running backs are guys Chase likes, and you don't. You have to pick Darrell Henderson or Cam Akers. Who are you pressing the button on?
I'm still taking Henderson.
Ooh. Oh no, you got to take Akers.
Thank you.
Why?
Because there's more
sanity.
value attached to his name. There's way more value attached to his name. You could take Akers and then trade him off for so much more. It's not even a question.
Could you
look at
100%?
I think
now?
you
I disagree with
second round
that.
pick.
I don't disagree.
I think you get an early second round pick and Henderson
Okay.
for Cam Akers right now.
Wait, what?
I think you get an early second round pick and Henderson for Cam Akers right now. There's too many people that are high on him.
Then make that deal.
I don't have
and
even
then,
one of
and
them
then
in
trade
any of my
Henderson
leagues.
for a first.
Hold on. So I would take Henderson because when he has a good game with the Rams, because that offense will be good, you'll get more for him at that moment than you would for Akers at any point until the beat reporters in LA talk about how good a shape he's in after the surgery. So I'm taking Henderson if it's a matter of trade value. He's going to score 2 touchdowns in a game, and then you're just going to flip him for more than what you would get for Akers at that moment.
Here's why it's Akers for me by a long shot. I think that
because you're stubborn.
No, like Shane just talked about wide receiver 3s not matter. You know who also doesn't really matter? Like back end RB2s don't really matter. And Darrell Henderson, when Akers was injured and then when he came back but didn't play, right? It was basically a 2-man backfield with him and Malcolm Brown. Like I don't know who they're going to bring into LA. I can guarantee you it's going to be someone. Jacob Funk is not going to be the RB2 for the Los Angeles Rams this year. Spoiler alert. Well, yeah, okay. Well, I say I'm comfortable with a lot of things, but no, like they're going to get someone. It might be someone totally dusty. Like it might be just Duke Johnson, or they could trade for Melvin Gordon. Or they could trade for Melvin Gordon, and then Darrell Henderson's not even the RB1 on his own team. Like that's a concern to me. Here's my issue with Darrell Henderson. It's a couple of them. So first off, when it was just the 2 of him and Brown, and they'll have someone of the Brown talent level because that is not a high bar to reach. He played 43% of snaps, 49, 39, 43, 52, 55, 21 got hurt in that game, then 32, 45, and then Akers started to work his way back in the offense. That's just not a guy I want. Like he's and that's who he is because he's 5'8", 200 pounds. He's a slasher. He's a good running back. But at the end of the day, he's a small slasher who doesn't really catch passes. So I just don't see the upside unless his game drastically changes to something it hasn't been in either college or in the pros. And LA has continually told us what they don't want his game to be, and that's the Rams RB1. They drafted him, and then Gurley didn't do anything. He wasn't good. They were playing Malcolm Brown over him. Then the next year, they go in with Henderson as the presumed RB1. They don't have a first-round pick, so they spend their first selection in that draft on Cam Akers. And then Henderson actually played because Akers got hurt, and he was actually good. And they were like, we're still not giving you more than half the snaps. And then when Akers got back to full health and got back in the lineup, they're like, oh, we'll give you 100% of snaps in the playoffs. But Henderson, no, not you. So I just don't see the ceiling for Henderson to the point where he's a guy that you have to have. And maybe Akers is never that guy anymore either. But I think it's like some chance versus no chance is sort of my view on it is just Henderson. I just don't think is the guy there. And it's so precarious. Like again, like I said, they could trade for Melvin Gordon 2 weeks from now. And then Henderson is Ronald Jones.
Henderson.
First of all, Ronald Jones
in.
is a free agent after this year, and there's going to be a running back 1 somewhere.
Maybe on the Rams. Can you trade Ronald Jones to the Rams?
The Rams aren't trading for anyone. They have no capital, and they're not going to trade for Melvin Gordon because they have no cap space.
No,
now,
they do. They have $7 million in cap space this year.
Did they sign their rookies?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, then maybe they'll trade for Melvin Gordon. They're not going to. But Henderson had 20 receptions every year of college, except for the final one when he had 19 receptions every year. So it's not like he can't catch passes. And I don't want to become like the Henderson defender, but I think he's good enough that I could. My only thinking is, can I get a first for him right now? If I can get a first for him right now, I'm
from bad owners. Yeah, some people are offering that. I mean, I would take a first for Henderson so fast. Oh my God.
I probably, so based on that scale, I probably still want Akers because even though Chase is somehow his one trade example was awful, but I think I can still get a first for Akers. I think I can still get a first for Akers
from bad owners.
Well, here's the thing. So every league, no matter how good your league is, has a couple people that just do shit from time to time that they're like, all right, well, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to do it. You know what I mean? Look, I make trades sometimes where I'm like, I don't think this is an especially good idea, but I want to do it, so I'm going to do it.
I can give you one right now if you want an example. It just went down on one of Jacob and mine's $100 buy-ins. If you want to hear it,
do it.
There's Sony Michel, a 22 third.
Wait, what?
Another 22 third and a 22 first for Cam Akers.
Oh, that
just went down.
That's a fair deal. So it's a 22 first for Cam Akers because none of the rest matters. So it's
I did see.
I stopped listening. What?
I liked Bob's.
But that's my 22 first, and my team's loaded. That's going to be
he said Sony Michel's going to get cut and he's going to get signed by LA, and I was like, maybe
that would be hilarious.
He's one of the guys that are going to get cut, so maybe.
And we know that when you get cut, it always ends up better for you when you go to the next team.
And every year there's a bunch of free or running backs that end up getting diced, and there's already an open spot for them. I said, in all honesty, if you want a player who's cheap, which the Rams want, and who can kind of catch passes still, it's kind of Lev Bell at that point on the free agent market. So, I mean, it's out there. They're going to bring it. He is, but his hands are fine. It's his legs that don't work. So when it comes to, and again, Matthew Stafford doesn't even need a running back. He's never had a running back in his whole career. So I think the rest of that offense is going to be just fine anyway. But I want the running back that's going to score touchdowns. And right now, that's Henderson.
I'll tell y'all who actually should go to the Rams. It should be.
Oh, he's breaking up. Who's he saying?
He broke up.
Wait, I broke up?
We didn't hear you. We didn't hear you.
No, I said, are you guys ready for this? It should be Lynn Bowden.
Okay, Lynn Bowden's not even a running back.
He is a running back.
He was a wild.
He literally lost his running back. He literally lost his running back designation.
He never got a running back designation because of the fact.
Yes, he did.
The Raiders.
Lynn Bowden was a college quarterback.
It was because he was drafted as a running back.
He was so terrible at running back that they had to trade him like 3 months after drafting him to a team that played him play wide receiver.
That wasn't why they traded him.
They traded him because he was partying.
They traded him because he had clubs. I even wanted to turn him into wide receiver, which he could play any position on the. We talk about Sean.
All right, he's breaking up. Can you mute him? So Lynn Bowden Jr. is not it. Lynn Bowden Jr. Look,
StreamYard doesn't want you to talk about Lynn Bowden.
I was all over Lynn Bowden coming out of the draft. I was quickly shown that this is incorrect. This was a bad take, and I've taken my lumps and I've gone, okay, Lynn Bowden, give up on that trade.
He was fantastic for like 2 weeks at the end of the season because they could only throw him little dump offs.
He was good because he cost $3,000 on DraftKings.
And he was designated as a running back. So you were like, this is great. I'm fine with his 5 receptions for 50 yards. That's great at running back. And wide receiver, not so much.
Okay, the answer is definitely not Lynn Bowden. Let's quickly speculate here. What do you think the Rams are going to do? Are they going to ride with this Jake Funk, Xavier Jones, Raymond Calais group, or if they bring someone in, who are you thinking they bring in? I'll start it with Tom.
Okay, so I obviously said Lev Bell would be fantastic is a strong word. Hey, he was Tom Lee.
You said it.
Good for a couple of weeks. He had a couple of weeks where he was all right. Okay, so for me, like reasonably, I don't think there's anyone on the free agent market. I mean, we could all make Frank Gore jokes if we want to. But I mean, there's no one on the free agent market right now that I think is really demanding of a roster spot because Houston signed them all. So the best bet is whoever the best running back out of Houston getting cut is probably the guy. Or I think Melvin Gordon's getting cut in Denver. I don't think he plays there this year, the way the camp and everything has been going for him. If he gets cut, I think he's on a fast track out back to LA.
They can't cut Gordon. They can't cut Gordon.
You can cut anyone you want to.
They can cut him.
It's
anyone they want to.
Cap space or something along those lines.
Yeah, but he costs $9 million on the cap. They still save $3 million.
No, it's less than that.
And a bad egg is a bad egg.
They literally save almost no money in cap space by cutting him. And honestly, he's not a bad egg. He was. Yeah, that's
except for the drinking and driving. Other than
drinking, driving, not wanting to be at camp, blowing off coaches, like it's just.
Dustin, I as much as I love this is about as ridiculous to me as they should trade for James Robinson. Like I understand that as fantasy managers, we have it would make our lives way better, right? To have James Robinson or Tony Pollard or AJ Dillon or any one of these backups that we love in LA, like that would be great for our lives. However, NFL teams don't care about us. If the Cowboys cared about us in the first place, they would actually free Tony Pollard themselves. But sadly, they don't. And we will probably never see the beautiful Memphis duo reincarnated on a football field again. But I don't know. What about
Cowboys are going to trade Ezekiel Elliott?
What about like Leonard? No, I guess they wouldn't because they're
no, they brought him back for the year. Yeah, I mean, maybe Rojo gets enough in the Arians doghouse where Arians is just like, I've had enough of you.
Apparently, it's Fournette that's getting into Arians' doghouse in the offseason right now, with reports of him needing to just shut the hell up.
I can't imagine that. Arians is also a little bit of an asshole. So
100%. Keyshawn Vaughn's getting cut, baby.
Yeah, I wanted it to be Rojo. So I need Rojo to go in the Bruce Arians office and just punch him.
Rojo and Darrell Henderson. Actually, well, no, Rojo's like different now. Now he's like thick Rojo. Rojo, when he came into the league, was the exact same guy as Darrell Henderson. They were the same.
He was always better than him. You shut your fucking mouth.
I don't know why people like Rojo.
Rojo can run fast in a straight line. Henderson can't even do that.
Yeah, he can. That's like the thing he can do. That's the one thing he can do.
It doesn't look like it.
There's no free agents. No free agents worth signing. Le'Veon Bell is absolutely washed. Todd Gurley can't walk. We're not even going to get into the Adrian Peterson, Frank Gore tier of like, why are you doing this?
What about Duke Johnson?
Duke Johnson has retired. He just doesn't know it, which is breaking my heart. But no, we're going to end up getting
fetch.
We're gonna end up with a guy that we're all gonna talk ourselves into. Like it's gonna be Royce Freeman gets cut by Denver, and then he's gonna end up there, and then we're all gonna go.
You got to be into that, man.
And then he's not paying attention to us. No, we won't say again.
You missed your show, man. Shane said that Royce Freeman was gonna end up in LA.
So Royce Freeman's gonna get cut, or a Royce Freeman like player. They're going to end up in LA, and then we're all going to talk ourselves into them. Like, this is the big moment. This is what we've been waiting for, guys. And everyone's going to go nuts on Royce Freeman, and then he's going to get there, and he's going to have 15 carries for 30 yards in week 1.
How about Darwin Thompson? Can it be Darwin Thompson?
It doesn't matter. They're all the same guy. All the same guy.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
It's going to be someone who doesn't make it out of camp. Like a vet that we all think is – like Gio Bernard got brought into Tampa Bay. I mean – he could easily just find his way back out the door, right? Like there's a bunch of guys that could end up going.
You know what? I think I have it. The Patriots, obviously, Damian Harris is their lead guy. Every beat reporter is very, very fixed that he's taken over the bulk of it, right? They just drafted Ramondre Stevenson, so he's not getting cut. One of Sony Michel or James White's getting cut.
I think it's Sony.
So whichever one gets cut, Rams.
I mean, for fantasy,
I would agree with that.
For fantasy, I would love James White there. I would absolutely love James White there because Sony Michel doesn't matter where he goes; he's going to be a trash can. But
James White's like Lynn Bowden, like a poor man's Lynn Bowden, so that makes sense.
Well, I mean, James White was an RB1 for a span of a few, like for a while there,
for seasons, for literal seasons.
Yeah, I know because Jacob traded him to me.
30 now.
Oh.
Lynn Bowden's only like 22.
31.
Speaking of, I like this take from Dustin. Sorry,
he's not getting
Justin. He said Justin Jackson. No, this is a thing. Like beat reporters, apparently Larry Roundtree has thick thighs, so they want to keep him. This is an actual quote. They had an article and they said Justin Jackson can get cut from Los Angeles because the Chargers like what they saw out of Josh Kelly this year, which makes them and Chase the only people who like what they saw out of Josh Kelly.
Were they not like?
And then they said that Larry Roundtree has thick thighs. And that's an actual thing.
Thick thighs save lives.
Look, another interesting one, Theo Riddick is unemployed. Do you think Stafford would want to bring Theo Riddick back in?
Look, oh God. Like it's going to be so in LA, it's just going to give more truthers of someone a chance to like tout their guy for one more year. And I think that's all it's really going to be. It's just going to be another Justin Jackson truther or a Justice Hill truther after he gets cut or whoever it's going to be. Duke Johnson's going to resurface for a week. It's just
at the end
it's going to be a mess. It's going to be a vet that gets cut.
It's going to be Henderson, and they'll bring in some guy that won't get a lot of work.
All right, I think that's probably the safest bet. Now let's quickly zoom out a little bit. And we had an interesting conversation at the beginning of this about handcuffing. And
Time out. Jacob, you're getting a lot better at hosting. I just wanted you to know that. All right, time in.
Thanks, Chase. Appreciate that. And now the flow of the show was fully ruined by that. Where was I? Okay. Look, we talked a little bit about at the beginning of the show, and I had a rant queued up, but Chase decided that instead we would play the intro music. I will give that back in a sec, but for those that missed it, Shane, why don't you lead this off here, and then we'll get into this. Is this proof that you should always handcuff your running backs?
You fucking idiots. No, I'm sorry. That was a legit question. I got to remember, I remember on Twitter a couple weeks ago, someone was like, you got to remember your audience doesn't always play in many. No, don't fucking handcuff your running backs. Like, that's just fucking insanity. You're wasting a roster spot. Just because your running back goes down, you have no way to know who the backup is. Most of the time, there's been a bunch of articles on it. JJ Zacharyson, a couple other folks, I forget whoever their fucking names are, but they know who they are, have talked about that. We don't even generally know who the backup running back is. And it's not even the guy that we're drafting second. It's rarely ever that guy. And even when it is, and even when it is, guess what? He sucks and he doesn't do anything. Don't handcuff. Okay. Don't handcuff.
Wait. I got a quick Twitter question. A question for you guys. Who played the most
that corner?
Who played the most third downs for Tennessee Titans this past season?
Jeremy McNichol.
Yeah.
Oh,
definitely
yeah, you got
Nichols.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, funny because everybody's sitting there tying Darnton Evans, right? And saying that he's going to be like the third down back if something happens to that. But I mean, who says it's not McNichols? Who says it's not somebody else on this roster?
Look, it could be Brian Hill. It could be Brian Hill.
Before Jacob goes on his tangent, if you're handcuffing your running backs, you're playing scared already, and you're probably already steps behind the rest of your league. If you have, suave league mates, you're already playing scared. So keep playing scared if you want to, but everyone in your league knows that you're the guys that play scared.
Yes, Tom Lee coming into the chat, and you'll hear more from Tom Lee and Tom in just over half an hour on the Fantasy Walkabout. Look, Tom Lee is one of the best teachers in the industry in terms of talking about value, in terms of talking about how you create value, and he's 100% right. Handcuff everyone else's running backs. I often am talking, when I'm talking about drafting for ceiling, I'm usually talking about, massive DFS tournaments, massive best ball tournaments, right? Where I'm talking about 1 in 50,000 type odds. So yeah, it's a little different in a 1 in 12 league. But you still need to shoot for ceiling. Like, the odds are still 1 in 12. Most of the time, you're going to lose your fantasy league. And, that means that you can't just be playing to tread water. You have to be playing to make serious strides. If you woke up today with Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson is on your roster, your first thought isn't, oh, thank God, I handcuffed Cam Akers. Now my life is great because I have Darrell Henderson. No, your reaction is fuck. That's your reaction, because you still lost Cam Akers. Does having Darrell Henderson make up, I don't know what, 60% of it, 70%? It makes up some of it, but Cam Akers was the RB6 on DLF 2 days ago. Many people, myself included, were happily trading multiple first-round picks for Cam Akers in pretty much any league. If you had Cam Akers and you wanted to sell him yesterday, you could have gotten 2 first-round picks from probably half the owners in your league in any given dynasty league. You cannot get 2 firsts for Darrell Henderson today. You can't get 2 firsts for the combination of Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson today, probably. So you're still losing value. It's not a good proposition. You're just losing less. But the goal isn't to lose less. The goal is to win. And especially some of these people that are doing it in redraft, or especially doing it in best ball. I mean, anyone who handcuffs in best ball is a class A moron. I'm sorry. But if you drafted Cam Akers with your first round pick and Darrell Henderson with your 12th round pick, well, what you got, congratulations, you got Darrell Henderson's new ADP. So you traded your first and your 12th for a 6th. That's a big win, folks. I mean, look, it's handcuffing sucks. You handcuff other running backs because this is extremely random and it could happen to anyone. So yeah, if I had Ezekiel Elliott as my RB1, I would love to have Darrell Henderson. If I had Cam Akers today, I would love to have Tony Pollard. Oh my God, Lindsay.
The only thing that should be handcuffed is Jacob for the next 72 hours.
Oh
yeah,
my God.
Lindsay has a point here. This is just the last thing I will say. I know this is a Dynasty show, but I want to plug a take that I have for best ball because I've been talking a lot about best ball recently. Darrell Henderson was going in round 11, and I was drafting a lot of them. Actually, I was drafting more Henderson than Akers just based on how I construct my best ball teams. And in Best Ball Mania, you're going to have 150,000 entries. Well, they probably won't fill it, but there's been 60,000 so far. For the last 60,000 entries of Best Ball Mania, Darrell Henderson was the best pick in the draft. For every entry from here on forward, he is the worst pick in every single draft, no matter what. Because if you are what
second, he wouldn't on a best.
Yeah, and his ADP is now 6.1. Like if you're drafting in the 12-player league and you take Darrell Henderson 6.1, I think that's a little bad, but that's fine. If you're playing Best Ball Mania, you know what you're doing. You are now taking Darrell Henderson in the 6th, competing against teams that have him in the 11th. Like you're not winning. So I don't know if the best ball team will have Darrell Henderson, but I can tell you that the best team with Darrell Henderson on it has already been drafted. And I just wanted to get that in quick if folks are doing some best ball stuff. Any other hot takes on handcuffing or on this?
But I like Tom Lie's comment, that people are looking to keep selling Henderson today because he's the guy that you drafted him because he's someone else's handcuff. And you can, the great thing about Dynasty is you can always trade it to that team anyway, unless it's someone like me. And I'm like, well, no, I'm not going to trade for this guy's fucking handcuff. That's fucking pointless. Don't try to do that to me. I'm smart. But
arguably,
people in your league, there's going to be people in your league that are like, no, this is a great idea. If Christian McCaffrey goes down, then I have Chuba. Like, that's not the same thing, bro.
I mean, anyone that's lived through Mike Boone and Madison in Minnesota the last couple of years, those are the guys that know better. But like Shane just pointed out, there's always somebody that'll be like, yeah, I'm going to get this guy at a great value and it's going to work out great for me. Hey, last year I picked up Mike Davis when I had McCaffrey and, he turned out to have a great season. Now he got a starting job somewhere. Like, it's just not – that doesn't happen often. And even still, Mike Davis didn't really help you at the end of the year. He's a backup. Backups are backups for a reason most of the time. And we need to remember that.
Yep.
And if anything, I would just trade for the handcuff, especially if it's one of these high-end handcuffs. Like there's for instance, there's some teams, where no one really knows who the RB2 is, so nobody's rostering the handcuff. But with these high-end handcuffs where everyone knows who it is, because we never really know who it is or exactly how it's going to work out. Like I wouldn't draft the handcuff or trade for them proactively. I'd rather just wait and see how it actually works out, honestly. Like, especially if you don't, because you don't 100% know how it's going to work. You can still get that guy because I guarantee you that the whoever has that person doesn't actually want to keep them. They want to sell them, so they're probably still gettable. I'd rather just take the risk and then find out if they actually are the guy. Personally, on the handcuff thing, I want to touch on one more thing quick before we let Tom go because he's got another show. What is your attitude on the day that something like this happens? This massive news break shifts everything. Nobody knows what to do. How do you navigate the trading waters? Let's especially just take it from, I'll go to Tom first. If you are the Akers owner, or if you are the Henderson owner, right? If you're the recipient of terrible news or the recipient of great news, what are you doing in the first few hours after the Shefty bomb drops and you're in the message board?
It's an interesting time because especially in today, you can't really give a fist pump. There's no way that if you have Henderson and you didn't have Akers, that you didn't give a little, just a little, okay, I got something here. You got to give it a couple hours, right? Because if you don't want to annoy your team, league mates. I know, Jacob, you put Henderson up on the block and you just posted, sorry, got to do it. It's not that's kind of how I approach it. That's how I did put him on the block when the news broke, but I waited a little bit because that initial, it's oh, of course he's putting up now. He's going to want a king's ransom. That goes through people's minds. So you got to give it time to breathe. I'm waiting a couple hours. I'm feeling out the chats. I'm sending a few DMs to a couple people that I've already got my eye on to trade Darrell Henderson to. And if I've got Cam Akers, I'm just putting him in my IR and I'm letting it rest until someone sends me an offer thinking I'm panicking, which most of the time I'm posting, I'm not panicking. Don't bother. for me personally. But yeah, I'm just sliding him in my IR. I'm relaxing. I'm breathing. Just don't be too rational. Because if you're just being, or sorry, don't be irrational. If you're making irrational trades, you're going to do something stupid. So I just try not to do that, man. I let it breathe. To answer your question, I just let it breathe for a little bit.
So it's just like taking your pants off. You're going to let it breathe.
Let it breathe.
Let it breathe. I got you.
Shane, let's if you're a neutral observer, all right, you don't have Henderson, you don't have Akers. So you're just one of these vultures that's swimming in the league trying to snoop it up. What's your attitude in that scenario?
So I'm probably trying to get Akers for cheap. I'm not a fish, so I'm not trying to buy Henderson because, well, if you're buying Henderson today, you're just a fish, and I feel for you. Same if you're selling Akers, you're also a fish. No. I can. There's reasons you can at least justify selling Akers. Buying Henderson, though, there's absolutely no excuse for that. So if you're that guy or gal, look yourself in the mirror and go, I'm not going to do this again. Never again.
You're not that guy, bud.
Right.
You're not that guy.
So, I don't like Henderson enough to pay up for him, so I'm not buying him. If I can get Akers cheap, if I see him, if someone puts him on the trade block, they seem despondent, I'll send out some bad offers to them and see what happens. I'm not going to offer him a first. I'll probably offer.
Can you beat one offer that I got of Andy Dalton and Tyler Johnson?
I could. Who?
Tyler Johnson.
I said Anthony Miller to just saying.
I don't know that Anthony Miller is better or worse than Tyler Johnson, but wow,
he's equally non-existent.
I would not be that. I mean, look, I get why people do it because look, they've seen trades accept it. Like these trades, you've seen trades like this get accepted in other leagues.
Mm-hmm.
Like you've seen it, or you wouldn't do it. But I also would look next to the name. What I do a lot of times is I go, who am I offering this to, right? And if I go, oh, this is Jacob, or if I go, this is Scott Connor, I'm going to go, I'm probably not going to send that offer because they'll just fucking text me and be like, you're a fucking idiot. If it's Chase, I might go, all right, well, I'm going to shoot it over to him. Here's Donovan Jones for Cam Akers, and he'll be like, slam dunk.
Will you throw in Isaiah Coulter?
And Colin Johnson. All three are his.
And Chase, if you're a Raymond Calais owner, how are you approaching? No, I'm joking.
Like you couldn't send me that trick because I already own all those guys. So I already roster all those guys. So like how are you gonna send them to me?
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Chase, how about this? You have the Cam Akers and someone is in the DMs, they've already approached you and they're like, hey, are you selling Cam? What's your strat? Like how cool are you playing it? To try and maximize your return here.
Oh, so cool. I'm just playing it cool. No, honestly, like if I have Cam Akers, I'm going to wait till next year. And let's say send me something where I'm a competitive team. I need a running back. I'm going to wait till next year when the camp reports start coming out. I want to try and hit that point where it's before the draft picks start picking up steam. But I mean, there's no running backs anyways this year, so I'm not really too concerned about that. I would probably ask for 2023 at that point once we start picking up some steam for the draft and start focusing on that.
Look, just the overarching story or the overarching thing you should take away from this is you shouldn't be reacting in any way whatsoever, really, unless it's to sell Henderson. If someone's buying Henderson, you sell, but you should not be buying Henderson today. You shouldn't be selling Akers today unless you're getting knocked off your socks. That's a bad way to play fantasy football. You're overly reactive, and you probably handcuffed every running back on your roster and can't understand why you don't have enough starting wide receivers.
You're probably handcuffing quarterbacks at that point. It's just like even worse.
People do.
Can we not? Can we not? I'm dealing with that right now in the league, which, by the way, Jalen Hurts owner accepted the trade.
For Joe Flacco?
Or Nick
the real QB1 in Philly?
So the way that I'm trying to take advantage of this, by the way, is I sent out 3 14 trades because that's my goal right now is to make a 14 trade happen. Trying to send the Darrell Henderson person who rosters at Darrell Henderson. I'm sorry, the Cam Akers manager, Darrell Henderson, trying to make a team trade happen. So that's how I've been reacting. Is trying to make multiple teams have taking all the value, and they just freak out on both parties. So far, good reaction. Waiting for 3 people to accept in 3 different trades. None of them have gotten declined yet. Waiting for it to happen.
Yeah,
So-
I remember actually one time I was at a bar in Fredericton with a bunch of folks at a conference, and one of them came over to the other two of us and said, "Hey, I texted these two girls to have sex tonight, and neither of them have said no yet, so I'm pretty sure I have a threesome locked up, and it didn't work, and I think you're going to find the same thing with your four-way trades."
But if two of the girls said yes and the other one's still thinking about it, right? You might have something.
Yeah, you would have been out there with that guy going off to buy roses at 11 at night and some champagne.
The
girls who aren't coming.
Roses.
And then
Jacob,
it wasn't me, fam. I was doing work in the bar because I was trying to react to where the girls were, and he was reacting to where the girls had not yet declined they would be.
Yeah, that's called blue ball. That's all you're getting.
I think he ended up hooking up with someone in a Chinese restaurant at 3 a.m.
Was it a foursome though? Because if it was, I mean, that still counts.
Him, her, and 2 plates of chow mein. Maybe that's about.
Thank you, Tom Lee.
So Thomas Tipple, where can we find you?
That's a good segue, Shane.
Well, look, I mean, obviously, Jacob mentioned.
Can we find you at a Chinese restaurant?
Not at 3 a.m. I know better. Look, my body knows better. Look.
Please mute yourselves, guys. Come on, let's keep it professional.
As Jacob mentioned,
9 p.m.
We do co-host the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast every Friday. That's our mainstay flagship, if you will. You can catch me right away when I get out of here over at the Fantasy Walkabout presented by the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast. You can catch that on our network, the Dynasty Vipers network. You can catch more of my work over at the now up and running, fully functional FullTiltDynasty.com, which we're pretty happy with as Jacob's dropping exclusive content over there. And the other boys, Billy and Tom Lee, myself, we will be adding onto it as well. So hop in the forums, get in touch with us. Let's talk some football over there at Full Tilt Dynasty Podcast. And of course, obviously, you can catch everything I'm still doing over there with Chase and everyone at fantasyintervention.com.
I want to give a shout out to their customer response team. I signed up for their forums, asked them what did I win. They immediately got back to me. Like not even an hour.
I think you're looking at the customer response team. Your left.
That's right there. That's Patrick the alpaca. He handles all of our customer service and HR situation.
Friendly. I signed up for the newsletter, and I sent a question and immediately got a response, and I was impressed by that.
Way to go, Shane.
That's how we roll at FullTiltDynasty.com.
Shane, when you're not tracking down girls over a plate of fried rice and chow mein, or signing up for our newsletter, where can we find you?
I just saw that Akers was traded for a 22 first.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. When you log into the DLF Trade Finder next week, you're going to see that a lot. I think.
Yeah. You find me at the Dynasty Trades HQ. It's this hat thingy. It's not an actual place, but it's a podcast, and we release it. So don't go looking for me. It's not like in Northeast Philly or anything. It's not a place. Dynasty Trades HQ, find me at DLF, and obviously on Dynasty Intervention at our new Blue Hour, 9:00. Jacob and Chase have really just taken the reins off themselves, and apparently
the reins really ever on ourselves.
Yeah, now it's up to me to be the voice of reason at 9:00. Oh boy.
Yeah, good luck with that, Chase. Where can we find you?
You can find me in my room because stop content and all that stuff. Intervention.com. You guys can find me in my room.
That's very nice. If anyone's in the Virginia Beach area, I guess. Is this like a basement or upstairs or an apartment?
Upstairs.
Okay. All right. You can find me on Twitter, ff_RTDB. You can find my written work primarily at playerprofiler.com, but you can also find my weekly blog on FullTiltDynasty.com. I wrote today about Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson, and pretty much everything we were talking about today. But instead of hearing from these other 2-3 schmucks and all of their bad takes, you just get to hear my takes directly on the blog, and it takes 3 minutes to read them without any sex jokes. So, it's efficient. Also, you can find me, of course, on Fridays with Tom Tipple, Big Billy FF, on the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast. And you can find, like I said, my work on Player Profiler. My last piece was on applying DFS lessons to best ball tournaments. My next piece was going to be the follow-up to that, but instead I'm writing a hyper fast article here on Darrell Henderson in best ball and the power of assumptions, and using this as a case study for how to best construct high-ceiling best ball lineups going forward, and reflecting on some of the ways that Darrell Henderson's been rostered just within the last day or so. Shane has to keep the show moving because he's the seniors home blocks at stores at 10:30. Yes, Dustin, that's correct. And I apologize for keeping Shane this long. Shane, I heard it was blueberry pie night at the home, so I know you have a lot to look forward to.
First of all, at 10:30, there's no one eating at the home. Okay, food is dinner and dessert have been done for at least 6 hours. Like nothing.
They're on the third rerun of Matlock already at 30.
We're watching Golden Girls at this point.
So I'll tell you what.
Catching up on MASH.
Tom, Chase, Shane, you are my Golden Girls. And everybody in the chat, thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for joining us late night during the NBA Finals. It seems people like the new time. We had really good viewer retention today, so this was great. I'm looking forward to being with you all every 9 p.m. Eastern time. We will be back next week with a very fun guest. We're going to be talking about zero running back, how it applies to best ball, and how we take that to Dynasty. We're going to be talking with Patrick Kerrane of NBC Sports Edge. I'm super excited for that show. So make sure to join us next week, 9 p.m. Eastern time with Pat Kerrane. And until then, have a great night.